Chapter 41. Bonfire. A bonfire of pain shot from my arms and legs from the ant bites. I stopped on the stoop to scratch. A pink candle glowed on the doorstep. It smelled terrible. I worried about the fight with the boys. Would I be in trouble again without anyone asking me what had happened? Or would Tessa's ID redeem me? I wiped my face and discovered my nose was bleeding. Jorge's truck sat on the curb. I looked down at my shirt. Footprints, blood, dirt. How could I explain any of this? The door to the apartment opened and the scent of a familiar soap hit me square in the face. Dios santos! What has America done to you? Screamed Grandma. I couldn't believe my eyes. Am I dreaming? I asked, rubbing my eyes and reaching out to touch her. Grandma grabbed my arm. What happened? Aurora, get some rags and olive oil. I stuttered. I was at the cemetery visiting Papa. There were these boys. Did they attack you? Jorge stood defensively. Do you know who they are? Everyone's questions flew at me at the same time. I scratched at my legs, wanting to claw them off. The fire ants' bites seemed to sting all the way through my skin down to my bones. They thought I was Tessa, I said. The room grew instantly quiet. I flipped the ID card onto the table. They had this. The rush of the moment caught up with me, like the panic couldn't run as fast as I could, and had finally huffed into the room. I didn't want to think about what the boys wanted from me, and I didn't want to think about what they took from Tessa. Manuela grabbed at the plastic card. Her palm covered her open mouth. Grandma, how did you get here? I asked. Manuela began to cry. We have to call the police. Nora has to tell them what happened. No, Mama and I shouted. Police? Asked Grandma. Won't they send us back? We can't go back. I just got here. Jorge held up his hands. We'll sort this out later. Everybody just calm down. But, stammered Manuela, I need to know. I clapped my hand over my ears. It sounded like cats fighting outside the window late at night, garbling high-pitched nonsense. Jorge put his hand on Manuela's shoulder. This isn't the answer. It's just a piece of plastic. This doesn't bring Tessa back. Perhaps it's time you let her go. But, she stammered again. Jorge pulled her toward the door. We need to go. The appointment for the permit is in 10 minutes. Manuela dabbed her eyes and loudly blew her nose. No police, I said. Please. Jorge motioned his finger for me to come closer. I'm not calling the police. I'm the one who smuggled your grandmother in, so now is not the time to get the authorities involved, he whispered. Outside the door, Mr. Mann stood with a worried look on his face, donut bag in hand. Chapter 42. Telenovelas. Mama filled the bathtub with hot water and a bit of bleach. I sat in it until my skin wrinkled and the itching stopped. Grandma sat on the toilet seat while I bathed. Have they told you? I asked. Her eyes misted. I know, mija. Jorge told me. It's why I came. It was easy to let the wall down around my heart if I had somewhere soft to land. But what? Why did he have to die? I sobbed. With Grandma, I could be who I really was. Naked or not, my emotions were out for all to see. I unleashed my heartache like a hurricane on Grandma. She held out the dry towel and pulled me into an embrace. How could I not come? There is nothing for me to wait for in Sedula, said Grandma. We were coming home to you in the orchard, I said. I was going to fix this for us. Grandma's strong shoulder slumped. There is no more orchard, or at least none that we own, and you are not responsible for fixing anything. I pulled on clean clothes, but my shoulders ached. I could have tried harder. Grandma pinched her nose and thought. No, it was taxes, fertilizer, and the lack of money. None of it was from your lack of trying. Grandma seemed older, her wrinkles deeper. I felt like it had been years since I had seen her rather than months. But, Grandma, it's been in our family for years. Grandma's chin cocked stubbornly in the air. And now it will belong to a new family. So much heartache. First Papa, now the farm. Grandma wiped the tears from my cheeks. Mija, I choose you. I choose to be here and make a new life with you. It seemed her positive spirit had survived the trip. "You're going to stay?" I asked. "Yes, of course I'm staying. You're my family. You have fixed me." "But how?" I asked. Grandma smiled cunningly. "A friend loaned me the money to get to Nuevo Laredo to meet with Jorge and Manuela. He knows I will return the favor." "Who?" I asked, holding my breath, waiting for the answer. "Hector," she said. "My friend Hector?" "No, mija. He is our friend Hector." Chapter 43, Lost and Found. Later that day, I awoke to the bickering in the kitchen between Grandma and Mama. It seemed like some things didn't change. "Tell me everything, exactly," said Grandma. "I only know when they buried him. Who knows how they do things here in America?" said Mama testily. The dark circles hollowed under her eyes. "But we must seek justice and give honor to Arturo," she insisted. "You don't think I want that?" I could tell Mama felt insulted. What did Grandma think we were doing here in America, eating cake? None of this was easy. Mama stared into her coffee. "But they threw him in the street like dirty dishwater. He died alone." "At least a funeral service at a church," demanded Grandma. "We can do that much." Funerals cost money, more than we had. If there was a God, he didn't like us. Why would I bother giving our hard-earned money to him? "But Isabel, we are illegal immigrants. We can't call attention to ourselves," said Mama. "You need to learn that we can't go stomping around here and demanding things." "God will care for us," said Grandma. A burning in my stomach rose like boiling milk as I sat up in the bed. "We don't even count as people here." Grandma reached out to me. "Mija, you can't deny God and his plan. You of all people should know. God told you to come here." Panic and pain had finally caught their breath. They were ready to chase me with all of their might. I bellowed out my thoughts, even though I knew it would hurt Grandma's feelings. "There is no God, and he has no will. When will either of you face reality?" I hit the door as hard as I could, and I ran toward the park. "Because nothing matters anymore." Maybe I could outrun these feelings crashing all around me. My feet pounded the pavement. "I hate you," I thought spitefully as I headed toward the park. I could feel the heat from the day soaking through the soles of my feet. In the park, all I wanted to do was climb a tree, but the limbs weren't low enough for me. I needed to be up in the air, away from all of this. I jumped and reached for any limb, but even in my desperation, nothing would come close. I grasped for anything. Even the trees were against me. The pool was closed. I tried to squeeze between the bars, but my body wouldn't budge. I wanted to dive into the cold water and to hold my breath and never come up. I wanted my father, who would never be coming home. I wanted away from this place called America. I cried for myself until the tears turned into salty rivers at my feet. Nothing here would make things better. The suffering was all for nothing. There would be no party, no school, no papa, no nothing. I thought I heard the trees whispering in the Gulf breeze. "Go home, go home." But where was home? Could it really be here? Mama and Grandma, did that make a home? I didn't want to hear voices anymore. And where was God? None of the lessons the nuns taught said anything about this. Wasn't he supposed to protect us? Wasn't he supposed to listen to my prayers? I wondered if God or faith even existed on Quitman Street. The night was busy transforming itself. Fireflies danced from one tree to another. Mosquitoes bit my legs, and frogs from the bayou sang songs only they understood. Mr. Man appeared from behind a tree. "Go home, Nora, go home." I shrugged my shoulders. "But where is home?" He looked at me with his dark eyes and tattered face. "Over there." He pointed. He dropped one of my bowls in my lap. "Dreams in there." He shuffled away. Perhaps he wasn't crazy. What seemed like hours later, I heard my name in the dark. It was Mama. "Nora! Nora! Please, I can't lose you too! Nora!" I would not give away my dreams. I ran toward her in the night because I wanted to be found. I wanted someone to rescue me. I ran past the trees and the swimming pool and into her arms. The moon was full. The shadows touched us as we stood in the middle of the park hugging each other. Mama pulled me into her strong arms. "We can start over. We may not matter to America, but we are important to each other," Mama whispered into my neck. I didn't answer. I felt like a flat tire, out of ideas on how to make this work. Tomorrow I would think of something new. Chapter 44, Sweet and Sour. I woke in the morning to the smell of hot coffee and eggs. There was a feast on the table, and I saw Magdalenas on the table. "I'm sorry for how I acted last night. I'm glad you're here. I've missed you." Grandma sat next to me, pouring the coffee and sugar like it was falling out of the sky. "I've missed you, too. I think you have been carrying the world on your shoulders. Maybe with me here, it will be easier." Things couldn't get any harder. "Where's Mama?" "She went to work, but Manuela left money for shoes. Some girl named Flora came by last night. She said she'd come by later." I raised my eyebrows. "What did she want?" Grandma fluttered in the kitchen. "Not much. She just said she was your friend and wanted to check on you." I didn't want to say anything about the fight. "You can tell her yourself if you want." I took another bite of eggs. I wondered if Flora was at home, wherever that was. "Now, what are those purple shoes?" Grandma was busy with a basket at the counter. She chattered like she didn't need a response. "I should take my candles to the market, because I've seen the bugs here. These candles killed several cockroaches on the porch last night. Jorge says they even keep the mosquitoes away from the stand." I couldn't help but laugh at her antics. "Grandma, those candles stink to the high heaven." A smile cracked through the sadness on my face. It felt like the first fruit you pull from a grapefruit tree in the fall. Hard to wait for, tough to pull. But you're so happy when it finally comes down and you taste the first bite. Sweet, then immediately sour, then sweet again. Yes, and that is why they are useful. I plan to earn my keep here in America. The heavy load I had been bearing seemed to ease up a bit. "So we really are staying? No more Mexico?" Grandma looked a bit sad, but she straightened her shoulders with hope. "Perhaps my candles will make us millionaires. Then we can just buy citizenship and visit Mexico whenever we want." I had a feeling it wouldn't be like that, and perhaps it was time to develop new hopes. For the first time, the apartment didn't really smell like garbage, perhaps a bit cleaner. I was ready for shoes and clothing that fit. Grandma, if it were that easy, everyone would be doing it. We walked the neighborhood. I felt protected with her by my side. On the way past the thrift shop, we passed the metal church. Grandma pulled on my hand. "Show me the building." She had sold 5 candles in 2 of my bowls, which she now called dream bowls. It's like she had a secret sense of who would buy in the neighborhood. I didn't want to go inside. "No, let's wait until later." I didn't want to have the God conversation again so soon. Grandma pulled open the door. "Is this the church your mama tells me about? Perhaps we should go in just for a second." The church was having a small service. Usually it was empty during the week, but today clumps of people sat in the pews. A woman was singing. Her voice floated all around the metal building like a gentle wind. We slipped into the back row. Grandma crossed herself before we sat down. My hands were frozen at my sides. In the front was a coffin, a funeral. Incense permeated the air. I had never really been to a funeral, but once in Sedula, I peeked into a church when one was going on. The coffin was shiny and black with silver hinges. It looked like a piece of jewelry. The flowers surrounding it fought with the incense to leave a trace of perfume. When the song was finished, the priest stood over the coffin and sang, "El Señor tiene misericordia." I anxiously shifted in my seat, awaiting the lightning that would strike me down. How do you tell your overly religious grandmother that you have committed the worst sin of cursing God? "Shh! God will understand you here," Grandma whispered. "He always has something to say, whether we are listening or not." A black priest sang from behind the altar. He sang first in English and then in Spanish. He raised his arms and the congregation repeated his song. "Lord, release my wants, release my fears, and let me come to you," he cantered. Despite my anger, I felt myself mouthing the words in both languages. Chapter 45, All Good Things. "How was your exploring this morning?" asked Mama, when we returned to the stand for lunch. Grandma beamed. Her candle basket was empty, and her wallet was full. All but one bowl had sold. Very good. We went to the church. Do you know when they have confession? I asked. I felt lighter, happier. Manuela answered, If you want to do it in Spanish, Pastor Michael will do it late on Wednesday for those who are from the Catholic tradition. They have another pastor, but we like him the best. Is he the black priest who sings? I asked. Her face looked puffy, but her eyes weren't as sad. Yes, he's Honduran. He says a mass on Saturday evenings in Spanish. The metal building is just temporary until the new church is built. I'll introduce you if you want. I'd never imagined a black person knowing Spanish. I just assumed you had to be brown. I didn't even know that differences in religions and color made no difference. Manuela grasped my hand. Thank you for giving me Tessa's card. I never thought about keeping the card, but it would have made my life simpler. Since I resembled a younger version of Tessa, it would be easy to pretend I wasn't illegal. No problem. I scrambled for the words. I had made it this far, and I could go further and still be a good person. Flora came by and spoke to me. I gave her some breakfast and discussed which boys had probably attacked you. You can still call the police if you want, said Manuela. No, I think I showed them that I wouldn't play their games, I said, looking at the scabs on my legs. But I worry about Flora. She seems like a decent person, just very alone, said Mama. She's just trying to get by, I said to both of them. It's not her fault about her family. Grandma touched my hair slightly. It's not your fault about Papa. Forgiveness will come in time, but anger will only make us bitter. You did everything you could. I didn't want to be angry forever, but I wasn't quite ready to absolve the world of my problems. The passion of the anger kept moving me forward. I still wanted more. Thank you for helping us, for Grandma, for everything. Without them, we might have just wasted away in the street. Maybe we did count as somebody. Manuela wiped her brow. Will you work for us in the restaurant? Mama and Grandma were already nodding their head. I had another idea. If you don't have a name for the restaurant, I have a suggestion. Chapter 46. Saying it out loud. 4 days of hard work rolled by in Jorge's new restaurant. Grandma cleaned floors and counters. I folded menus, polished the used chairs and tables, and scrubbed corners. A stink candle sat outside the back door. A neon sign blinked outside the front. Contessa. Grandma wanted to go back to the church. Without a television, she missed nightly mass. I wondered if Hector bought the television, too. I sent a silent prayer for our friendship. Even though guilt plagued me about the ugly things I said to God, I didn't mind going. I wanted to see the priest who sang at the funeral. Nina, wear something clean, please, said Grandma, and not the purple shoes. Grandma, I said, rolling my eyes, I'm not 6 years old. I know the proper way to dress. But I put the flip-flops on anyway. Grandma pinched my cheek playfully. You will always be a little girl to me. I knew what I was going to wear. I'd hid the dress all summer. When I slipped it over my body, I realized it was shorter. It used to touch the bottom of my knees. Grandma didn't notice the small flowered blood stain that sat right over my heart. A small altar of candles sat humbly in the corner, and I lit too. I should have deposited some money, but I'm sure God understood I was a little broke right now. Besides, what I was praying for was courage. God could keep silent, but what I needed was enough strength to open my mouth. Grandma came out of the confessional looking satisfied. How did it go? I asked. Very well. He is a nice priest. It's the same one from the funeral a few weeks ago. Do you want to go in also? She asked. I entered the small booth, and the door slid open. I worried my heart would jump out of my chest and land with a splat on the floor. Yes, my child, said Father Michael. Forgive me, Father, as I have many things to confess. Go ahead. Father, I haven't been to confession since, I don't know. I've cursed God. I've lost my faith. Why did you curse God? I cursed him because he let my father die. I cursed him for all the bad things that have happened. I feel he has abandoned me. Your father died? It wasn't long ago. We came here to find him. I prayed really hard, and God didn't listen to me. Do you think God didn't listen to you because your father died? I'm not sure, but I have a question. Can I ask you? Well, this time is reserved for the confession of sins. Why don't we finish, and then you can ask me questions?" "Yes, Father. I'm mostly finished." I could have confessed for hours, but I think I covered the big stuff. "Child, your sins are forgiven. Pray to God to restore your faith. Look for Jesus in your everyday life. Say the Lord's Prayer and know God forgives those who ask to be forgiven. I will pray for you." He shut the window. I peeked out of the booth. No one else was in line. I moved into the pew and waited for Father Michael. I wasn't exactly sure if I had my faith back. I wasn't sure if I was finished being mad at God. I wasn't even sure if God was finished being mad at me. Grandma knelt against the altar. Several more candles had been lit, including a pink stinky one. She was deep in prayer. "Those are some big thoughts for someone as young as you," said Father Michael as he sat next to me. His skin was the color of warm flan. His voice made me feel comfortable and my heart stopped beating so hard. "I'm not legal. I don't have any papers." I could feel the blood stain on my dress burning. I didn't know if that was a good thing or not. "God doesn't care about your status. He wants you to have faith." I sat in silence. So many questions I wanted to ask, but Father Michael said what I needed to hear. "And like your own father, he wants you to have hope. You have not been abandoned." He patted me on the back and I sat in silence for a while. It didn't matter about the voice anymore because I think I had found my own. As I turned around, I saw Flora sitting in the shadows. "Where have you been?" I asked in a loud whisper. "Hiding. The police have been in and out of my house lately. My brother's been arrested. I've been staying with a cousin across town. If I'm not home, I don't have to watch." "Sorry about that," I said. "My dad died. I mean, he was dumped or killed or something." Flora bunched up her lips. "Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. What are you going to do?" I shrugged my shoulders. "Not sure. Survive." Flora nodded with knowing. "Yep, you gotta make your own way." "Yeah, I think I can. I mean, I'm almost sure I can," I said with more confidence. "But if things get too bad for you at home, why don't you come to my place?" "We'll see," said Flora. "That's a lot of people for one bed. But your grandmother's nice. It'd be good to be around a family who cares. She was feeding me just like you did." "You can be my family, Flora. No matter where you are. You can belong to us." Flora's eyes moistened. She gripped me close and then disappeared out the doors before I saw Grandma rise from her place. When Grandma and I exited the church, I saw Mr. Mann sitting on his corner. He never asked people for charity, but I knew what he needed. I went back inside and made a sign on an old church bulletin. "I matter, Mr. Mann."